So we will continue with the class we started in the previous session, which is list a class. So we did the first 5 methods. Now we will talk about add item. It says here for add items, you have to take a string y, and then you have to add y to the end of the array, and they have a condition that the array should not be full and y does not exist in the list. So let's give it as an example. Let's assume the array is list, and we have that the array is of size 3, and we have here number of items. So let's assume the array is still fresh. We have no items, so the number of items is 0. So if we need to use this method add item, I have to send a string y. So for example, if we need to add item, and we need to send, for example, the value ABC as a string. So it means this ABC will be sent as a parameter, and the name of the parameter as y. What we need to do, we have to add this ABC to the array. Because it's the first time, so where we should add ABC, we should add it to location 0. So ABC should be here, and number of items should be incremented. So what we did actually, we went to the array, and at location 0, it equals y. And because basically y is ABC, so that's ABC was added to location 0. So the second time you have another item, for example, now I have to add item, and this time I have to add XYZ. So XYZ will be sent as a parameter. So this is XYZ. Now the location of XYZ, it should be added in location 1. So there should be XYZ, and I have to increment the number of items. So it's more like I'm saying I have to go to the array at location 1 equals y, which is currently is having the value as XYZ. So what we are doing, this is not in a for loop. Each one of these is done in one step. So the first time you add ABC and then you finish, and then you add XYZ and then you finish. So you will notice here, if it is the number of items 0, you will use 0. If the number of item is 1, you will use 1. So it's more like here, between brackets, I have to use number of items as the index. So now if I have a new value, y equal mw, where we have to add this mw, this y, should be added to the array, and in which index I have to go to number of items, location 2, which is this location 2, and then we can add the item here. So I have to add here the number of items, which is currently is having the value as 2. So always the idea of adding items to your array, one item at a time, by saying you have to go to the name of the array, use the number of items as index equal the value you would like to add. So if we will implement this, here we will say I have public, we have no return type, so void, and we have the method as add item, and it should take string y. Now what we agreed is I have this y and I have to add it to my array. So I will have to say go to the array at a specific location, and you have to say this equals y. And also remember, because we added a new element, I have to say number of items plus plus. Otherwise, your number of items will not be incremented. Now here we shouldn't have any for loop, any I. What we need the location. So I cannot use I as a location because we don't have many items. It's not a for loop. What we will use only number of items. Now, according to the question, we have a condition that the array is not full. So for example, let's assume the following. We added 3 elements, So the array now is full because number of items will be 3 and the array is of size 3. If you also need to add a new item, for example, you have y as a, and you need to add this item to your array, this should be rejected. You have to say that the array is full. So I have to go to my coding, and I should have, just before we do the adding, I should have a statement that says, if the array is full, I have to output a message, for example, system.out.println, and we will say, sorry, we cannot add any more elements because the array is full. If it is not full, then we can do the statement that we wrote before, which are adding the element and incrementing the number of items. So adding the item and incrementing the number of items, this is the general thing. But before we do this, we have to make sure that the array is not full. How can I check the array is full or not? Just like what we did as in the previous method, we have to say if number of items equal the name of the array dot length. This means if number of item is 3 and the array is 3, it means the array is full, so we cannot add the item. This is true, or you can write it in another way. So this is fine. Or because we have another method called isFull, I can use this method. So I can just come there and I say here, if isFull, and this is, we'll call the method above, and it will check if the number of items equal length, it will return true, otherwise it will return false. So in terms of programming, it's up to you. You can write isFull, or you can write if number of items double equal list dot length. Both of them are correct. We have another condition that says also that y should not exist in the list. Let's assume we have the following case. Let's assume that this is our array, which is of 3 elements, and we have number of items. And let's assume I have 2 items, A, B, so number of items will be 2. Now, if I have an add item, and I have to add a new item, which is A, so it means A will be sent as a parameter, and I have to send A in my and I have to add A to my array. The array is not full, still we have one more space, so we can add it, but actually this addition should not be done. And the reason is because A already exists in my array. So according to the rule we have here, if Y does not exist in your array, then you can do the addition. So if we go to our coding, already we did this method before. So if you go there, here you have a method that says is on list, it will take Y. If the item is there, it will return true, otherwise it will return false. So here I can just use this one as on list, and I will just call the method. So here the first if condition is to check is full. The second condition I have to check, so I will have to say else if, and I will use the method is on list, and I will have to send the parameter Y. So it will go to the method and it will take Y, which is this Y. If the element is there, it will return true. So if it is true, I have to output a message and I will say again, sorry, the item exists in my array. So we will say this item already in the list. If it is not in the list, it will go to the else. So again, the main part of this method is that you have to go to the array and you add y, and you have to use number of item as an index, and you increment the number of items. But we have two more conditions. According to the scenario, if it is full, you have to output a message. If y already in the array, you have to output a message. That's why we use the predefined method as full, and we use the predefined method as onList. The last method we have to write is a print, which is an easy method, print the values in the array. So all what we need is a method to do the output. So we will just have public void print. It will take nothing. And all what I need a loop from the beginning till the end of the array. And remember, do not use list.length because in this case, you will go up to the end of the array. We need only the current items. So I will say number of items, I plus plus. And here only we will have to do an output. So I will just output the element in the array. So I will say list at location I. We can have a message here at the beginning. For example, list equal, and then we will display the items in the array. And this will be the end of our class. So let's go back to the elements we did. We had a private two members. We have an array list, so that's why we need a bracket, and the data type is a string. We need to know how many elements, so that's why I have number of items, and it's of type integer. We need default constructor, so it means I will have the same name as the class. So this is exactly the same name as the class, and we have no parameter. Inside it, I have to initialize the private member. So I have to say list equal number of items equal. According to the question, I have to say list equal a new array of size 10, and we initialize number of items to be 0. If it is with parameters, it means I have size here. So I will have to say array equal list new string of max size. And again, I will initialize number of items to be 0. Just like any other array, it could be full, it could be empty. How can I know if it is an empty? I have to say number of items. If it is 0, it means empty. If number of items equal length, it means it's full. Also, one of the main methods we did was the search. We will take y and we will do a search. So that's why I need a loop from 0 up to the number of items. If the element at I equals y, that's why I have to say return true. If I finish the for loop and the element is not there, we will say return false. The last two methods we did was add and print. Again, here for adding, we will take y. So we will take y and we add it to the array, and we will increment the number of items. But before that, we have to check if the array is full or not. So we will call the method full. We will call the method as onList. And finally, the printing method, which is going from 0 up to number of items, just to print the elements in your array. Now we will continue by writing another Java program. We will create an object and we will ask the user to enter the items or end to stop, and we will display the items. So for example, we will create the object and we will enter the item, for example, buy milk, sugar. If we say buy milk again, it should not be added because this is already there. And then we will output the values that we have. So here then the program. Here we will start a new program. onboard Java utility scanner, the name is demo, and then we have the main method. From the main method, we started by having the scanner as usual. We will create an object list class list1 equals new list class. Now this method, it will use the class we have just used, and it will create the class with empty constructor because here we have no values. So it will go there and it will call the default constructor. So if we will draw it, when we say list class list1 equals a new list class and empty brackets, it means we will create an object list1. Inside list1, I should have the private members. The private members we have an array called list, and we have an integer called number of items. Now, because here we say new list class and empty brackets, it means go to the default constructor and create your array, and it should be having 10 elements. So the index should go from 0 up to 9, and number of items will have 0. If you need to specify how many elements in your array, the size, if you say, for example, here between bracket 3, it means the array will be created such that it will have only 3 elements. It will call the other constructor. Now let's just stick to the example we have. So we will assume that we have an array of size 10. Now we will ask the user to enter the values, and we need to have n to stop. So we will have a while loop. That's why we will say, please enter values. We will read the value. We will save it in y. If y is not end, I will continue with the loop. And just before we end the loop, again, I have to read a new value. So here I will ask the user, enter a value that you need to add to the array. So we will read this y and we will add it. That's why I have to say list1 dot add item and y. So according to the example we have here, we will ask the user, for example, enter item. And if the user said the item I would like to add is milk, we will read this value milk. We will save it in a variable y. And I have to add this y to the array. How can we add it to the array? The array is within an object list1, so I have to say list1 dot the method that will do the addition for us, which is add item. So we will come there and we will say add item, and between the brackets I have to say the variable name y. So it will take milk, it will go to the array. If the array is not full and milk is not there, it will do the addition for us. Otherwise, it will output a message. And it will continue reading all the items. At the end, it will go to list1.print. Let's try compile and run. So we will see if it works properly. So here the array at the beginning was created of size 10. Now we are on this stage. It says enter an item to enter. Let's assume that the first item I would like to add is milk, and I will click enter. Now what happened actually? The item was added to the array, and again now it's asking for another item. So let's again say I need also milk. And press enter. Here it will say, sorry, this item already exists, because it will call add item, and add item as having a condition. If the array is full of or the item already exists in the array, then you cannot do the addition. So let's have another item, which is tea. So it should be fine added. Let's have another item which is sugar. This is okay. Now the array is of size 10. So you can add up to 9 elements, or you can just say end, and this will end your program. And here, the last thing, when you finish your loop, you will call the method print. The method print, it will go to the array and it will do the output. So, and this is the last method, it was done here. So here it will do the output, and that's why here we have 3 elements, which is milk, tea, and sugar. Let's go and do a run again, but I will do it with a smaller array. Let's assume that the array is actually not as 10 elements, only 2 elements. So let's ask, the first item is milk, the second time we need sugar, and the third time we need tea, for example. Here, because the array is only of size 2 elements, so milk was added, sugar was added, but tea, because this is out of the boundary of the array, so it will not be added, and it will say, sorry, the array is full. And here we can just say end. So the array, it will say you have these 2 elements in your array. So this is the full program we have as an example, where we have an array inside the class, and we have methods to add to check if the array is full or not. And then we wrote another program that will take elements and it will add them to the array. This is for the session today, where we discuss the concepts of where we have arrays in classes to represent a list.